Hey everyone, welcome back to the Always Closing podcast. Today I got a very special guest. I got Lionel Thomas from the Thomas Appraisal Company.
Yes, sir.
Man, I've been seeing you everywhere. You're a hot guest for everybody right now. So it's
Yeah.
good to have you on the podcast.
Yes. I try to stay very public and I try to stay ready to serve people and realtors and families. So I'm happy to hear that.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I ran into you. Well, we met you, I think, at the Tri-Counties Association of Realtors, their weekly meetup.
Yes.
You did a really good presentation there.
Yes.
And then, like the next week, I think you were at Citrus Valley, right?
Yes.
So you're all over the place. I mean,
Yeah. I'm a member at IVAR. So usually I do them at IVAR. I am a vendor. I'm an official appraisal vendor for CVAR. But, I guess I haven't had the time in the past to be involved. But I did go to the last vendor meeting and I met Miguel and he invited me to come do the presentation. So
awesome.
I had a good time and I look forward to doing more presentations. I feel like I need to slow down the way I talk, so I'll make sure to focus on that. And if you're commenting on this video and I'm talking too fast, make a comment so that it's a reminder that I need to slow down and relax.
Has that always been part of like your marketing or sales like strategy to speak at events or networking events or getting out there and meeting people that way?
I mean, I've been an appraiser for a long time. My grandmother was an appraiser. I'm a second generation appraiser. So I feel naturally, I have what's called an AMC license. So I feel the need to kind of step up and share my experience.
What is that, the AMC license?
AMC stands for Appraisal Management Company.
Oh, okay.
So it's kind of like being an appraisal broker,
Gotcha.
right?
As opposed to just a standard, just someone has a standard appraisal license.
Yeah, I am what's called a certified residential appraiser too. So
Okay.
I can do residential properties 1 to 4 unit with no regard to value or complexity.
Okay.
So with an AMC license, you can work with mortgage bankers or whoever, families, law offices, and you get appraisal requests and you have the authority to distribute them to the right people. Because a lot of times people don't understand, even the watchers, that maybe you need this building to be appraised, and an appraiser like myself can't do it,
Right.
and they don't even know where to go to find that right appraiser. So in a scenario where they have a whole portfolio of properties, we can assign the appraisals to the right people, obviously get them good prices, and it works well.
Awesome. So let's go back a little bit. Why don't you tell me I mean, I know you said your family was in
Yeah.
it. So is that kind of what started you off in the business? Did you always want to do that or something that you kind of just like fell into?
I wanted to be a firefighter, dude. Like in high
Okay.
school, I wanted to go to the Navy. Obviously, before that, I thought I would go to the NFL and play football.
Yeah.
Or actually, to take it even further back, my uncle played for the Minnesota Twins. His name was Al Newman.
Oh, nice.
So he played with Kirby Puckett. And
Awesome.
when I was a kid playing Little League, I was always thinking I was going to go to the Major League Baseball, to the majors. In high school, I played freshman baseball, but then I played I played sophomore football. And, football was obviously much more fun. I got to put on muscle and put on weight, and it was a better experience. So then I started thinking I'm going to go to the NFL or whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm too short, apparently. Or not really. I mean, I'm not too short. It's just,
Those guys in the NFL are massive.
yeah. I guess in theory, I could have kept lifting weights and getting quicker and stronger. But at some point in my journey, I decided I want to go to the Navy and be a firefighter. So that was my plan. Maybe I met the recruiting guy and he kind of planted the seed in my brain.
Yeah.
Also, my grandfather and my dad were both in the Navy. So it's kind of like, me kind of following the steps of my forefathers. But before I did that, I did the ROP fire program. And I only had 4 classes my senior year because I had gathered up these extra credits.
Right.
So I would go home after fourth period, and my grandmother was an appraiser, so I ended up going out with her. We would inspect properties. I would do data entry. I started helping her basically convert from typewriter to computer because she was literally like typing and shipping appraisals in the mail.
Right.
We would like glue stick pictures on the reports. It was
It's funny. I'll show you on the way out. There's actually a typewriter right there on that desk.
no kidding.
They use it to like correct documents somehow, and I'm like, there's not a better way to do this, but I think it
Microsoft
works.
Word. Yeah.
Yeah, it works. So I'm just like, all right, whatever you guys, if you need it, then.
Yeah, so that's kind of how I got started. Once I helped my grandmother, I actually got off of that ship and went and did graphic design multimedia because I was a young rebel at that time. And I finished that program and got the job and realized, like, I got this graphic design job which pays $300 a week, and the appraisal job pays $300 per appraisal.
Yeah.
And then as a kid, you realize, like, what was I thinking?
Right.
But you just think it. So for all the kids watching, if you're watching this and you care, really think clearly about your decisions about what you're going to do as a career. It really matters.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of people are like thinking, I mean, you should always do what you like, right? It's something that's you're interested
Yeah,
in.
your
But at a
passion.
certain point, like you got to be realistic too. Is like, you know what I mean? It's like okay, well, maybe music and art is great and things
Yeah.
like that. But sometimes it's kind of like okay, like how many people really make it, and how much are you really gonna make, and you got to survive, right?
You
So
gotta survive. I remember even at that journey, I wanted to be a producer, and I met this producer who was doing soundtracks. I'm like, oh, how cool is this? Like, he makes
yeah,
soundtracks, soundscapes. And then he started talking to me about. I asked him like, oh, how do you get paid? And then once he told me that, I was like, look, this is no reason even, because
yeah,
it's not like a clear process of like you do the work, they pay you. It's not, you have to like hire. It's not a smooth process. And I
right,
realized like, look, my grandmother's doing appraisals. She's getting paid. I can get paid with her. Why am I doing this?
right.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, I guess like with me, it's the same with me. I mean, I've never thought I was going to get into escrow. Like, who
Right.
who grows up thinking like I'm going to be working escrow one
Yeah.
day? You know what I mean? It's not something that you really like think about. But similar to you, my mom started this company like 23 years ago. I started helping her out here
Hmm.
after high school, and over time, it's like, hey, this is a good business.
Hmm.
Might as well just get into it.
It's consistent. I didn't realize this is your family business.
Yeah, yeah. So
Congratulations.
thank you. Yeah, my mom actually, she's semi-retired now. She'll come in and help when we
Hmm.
get really busy.
Hmm.
But yeah, she's kind of turned over the reins to me over the last few years. So it's been fun for
Congratulations,
sure.
man.
Thank you. So what were like some of the challenges when you started the business? I know just starting off is kind of intimidating, or
For sure.
sometimes you're just like a little nervous about it. And
Hmm.
did you start off working for somebody else and then opened your business, or did you decide from
No,
the beginning I'm gonna
I
start my own company?
I worked with my grandmother the whole time. Like, I got my certified residential license in 2008, so it took me like 6 years to get my first client, which was the city of Riverside.
Okay.
At some point in there, I started working for an AMC called Consolidated Analytics. So I started because she was what's called a fee appraiser. Like, I went down the fee appraiser journey,
Yeah.
and I started working for an AMC called Consolidated Analytics. She worked for an AMC called LandSafe, which I don't think exists anymore. But that's kind of what I learned from her. But then my first contract was with the city of Riverside. This was at a time when there was a lot of foreclosures and REOs, and they had what's called a neighborhood stabilization program where they were buying properties, remodeling them, and then
Mhm.
reselling them to low-income home buyers.
Okay.
So that was a contract that I had to compete for, and so like what's weird is like my first ever like opportunity for work was in a government contract,
Nice.
and I used that contract to kind of come to the AMC's and show my experience, and
Right.
I'm still here.
That's awesome.
Hmm.
And
I
yeah,
didn't. So, but you're asking about challenges,
yeah, yeah.
right? Like one thing that for me, being like a minority, I was kind of like not really. Even though like I'm fully experienced and I'm fully ready, it kind of felt like can I really do this job?
Yeah.
Like I don't even know how to explain it, but there was like some little voice in my head telling me I just couldn't do it. Like, no, people don't want you doing appraisals at their house. Like,
Right.
who you kidding?
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's why I took the journey to work for cities, because I felt like in that process, it's like predetermined. I'm the appraiser. They can send me the request and I'm
Right.
going to go. And it's not like I have to go out there and sell myself. But as you said, and as you mentioned earlier, like I've learned a better way to present myself so that I can confidently explain what I
Yeah.
know and what I do.
Yeah, and it shows, like when you present at events, like you can tell like this guy know what he's talking
Yeah.
about. Like he
Yeah.
has a lot of experience. He probably appraised a lot of homes. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
comes across.
Yeah.
So
So that's one of the barriers, I think. And even when I see new appraisers, I'm always, I know that they can pass the classes and I can help them get the experience, but I don't know if they can actually get the work. And that's even for appraisers with licenses, that's an ongoing, just like a realtor,
yeah,
it's an ongoing challenge of, well, who are you going to work for? And the way that I see it, there's like 50,000 listings right now. There's 20,000 pendings right now. And like all those properties need appraisal services.
right,
So you have to really do the work in order to identify whether it's the realtor or the client or who you can get a hold of so you can serve those families,
right.
right? Because there's a need. You just have to like sell, right, to get into the need.
Have you brought people under your wing and try to kind of like show them the whole process?
Train them?
Yeah,
Yeah. I've successfully trained one appraiser.
yeah,
Her name is Gia. But she, I don't. She did great. She passed all the tests. She got experience hours. She even got her real estate license. But she kind of ventured into selling flowers. So she's been working as a florist And
Okay.
I talked to her a couple months ago, and I think she let her license expire. So that kind of, touched me in some kind of way. But I think she's happy being a florist, and it's more, it's art and expression kind of
Right.
feeling. And if she's making money, I'm happy for her,
Yeah, but, I mean, everybody has their own thing, and if it works for her,
Yeah.
then that's good for her.
Yeah.
So let's get into some of like, there's a lot of like, I feel like misconceptions, common myths, things like that, when it comes to appraisals, some of the stuff that you were talking about. So what would you say is like some of the most common myths that people think about when it comes to an appraisal?
The
I know
most
you mentioned a
common,
lot about like FHA, conventional, people think,
yeah. Well, people think that like basically an FHA appraiser goes out and does an appraisal, and the property doesn't qualify. It's not that it doesn't qualify. Period. It's that you need to make these certain repairs so that it does qualify.
right,
So a lot of times people will accept they don't want to accept FHA offers because they're concerned if the property qualifies or not. So if you're
there's more
watching and that's
conditions
you,
on it.
yeah, because of conditions.
Right.
So if you're watching and that's you, then you can call me 909-510-3353 and I'll come out and give you a consultation and explain, why or why not, because you shouldn't feel that way.
So
That's one.
should sellers like reach out to you beforehand, maybe even before they reach out to a realtor, just to get an idea? Because a lot of times, I mean, do you get contracted your work by realtors, or do actual homeowners will reach out to you?
Both. A lot of times, if a realtor is challenging, like a challenging valuation,
Right.
like maybe the property has special features or has a special location or special lot size, they'll reach out. I had an investor reach out to me this morning who wants to buy who wants to invest in a house in Fontana that had like a 30,000 square foot lot, but only 1,000 square foot house. So, I can see the valuation challenge there. A lot of times, even the homeowner will reach out to me quietly in order to get peace of mind about their asking price.
Right.
So I'll go out and do that, and
Yeah, that's what I
educate
was
them.
thinking. I mean, let's say if you're thinking about selling, it's like, you know what, let me get my own estimate first before I get all these other people involved.
Yeah, they want peace of mind. On that peace of mind side, like if it's a divorce, obviously, I do a lot for that reason because there's a lot of different settlements. When there's a passing in the family, the executor may come to a conclusion of the valuation or get an appraisal, and then one of the trustees may get their own appraisal because they don't trust that process or
Right.
brother sister drama. So
Right.
I do see a lot of work in those venues, and if you're watching, I'm happy to serve you.
Okay. What about Zillow estimates?
Right?
Because I'm sure probably especially if you're dealing with homeowners directly.
Yeah.
I'm
You
sure
want
that
this for us?
it's for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Drink this before I say this.
Yeah, I'm sure you probably hear that all the time, right? I mean, they want to base their estimate of their home off of what they're seeing online.
Yeah.
I mean, how far off is it, or how close is it?
Well, I did one just the other day in the city of Ontario. I do the whole report. It's like 72 pages. Dragging and dropping the pictures, labeling the photos, and they pay for it. The report gets delivered, and the homeowner's daughter texts me and says, "Oh, this is much different than what Zillow says." And I respond, maybe I should have responded better, but I responded like, "Oh, I don't use Zillow as a reference, so I don't know what Zillow says."
Yeah.
But I said, "Let me look it up." So I looked it up, and I want to say Zillow said it was like 570, and the appraisal was like 680. And I said, "Oh, well," and then as I read through the Zillow page, I noticed that they had a little tip right there that said, "This is not an appraisal," so I copy and pasted. Actually, I screenshot with my phone
Yeah.
and sent her the little thing that said it's not an appraisal because it's not. It's a zestimate,
Right.
right? And I told her if
It's
she was
literally just an estimate of what they think it could be.
yeah, but it's not even like so to me. And I've not that I'm special or whatever, but I've seen Zillow go from like a really basic website to like this huge brand now.
Right.
And like they don't have a light. I don't even want to talk bad about Zillow in any way because obviously they're a really big deal. But they don't have a license even. Let me say it this way. I'm not even irritated, but I'm a little taken aback because a lot of consumers will try to compare the appraisal results to Zillow, and I'm kind of like, what are you comparing it to? Because this is almost like nothing.
Right.
And I couldn't even tell the homeowner how that valuation occurred.
It's probably just based off of their own data, but that doesn't mean really anything, right? Until you go into a home and actually look at it.
Right. So to me, it is puzzling. I'm assuming that they use a cost per square foot method. That's
Right.
the only way they could do it because that's the data that they could use. and I would hope that they apply that cost per square foot method maybe across bedroom sizes. But when you're choosing comps, you want to narrow down the results and make sure that if you were to use a cost per square foot, you want to make sure that your cost per square foot is focused on like apples for apples comparables.
Right.
So if I could go on their page and see that that's been done, then I can explain it. But I literally can't explain how they came with their conclusion. So it leads me, what I usually do in response is I'll make a video and I'll go through the report. Like I use what's called BombBomb.
Right.
And I'll go through the report and go and say, hey, the greatest way is given this comp. This is why. These are adjustments, and kind of help them see where the value came from. Because there's nothing I can even really say about Zillow because I don't know what they do.
Right.
And I don't mean to sound negative towards them in any way, because if they want to send me 10 million appraisals, I'm happy to receive them.
Absolutely. Because, like, I mean, one of the things that I even think, even in my own house, right? Like, I get, like, the email, like, here's an updated report on your house or whatever. And I even see, like, the pictures from when I bought the house. Like, looks nothing like it looks like now. So it's like, how would they even know about, like, the upgrades I've done in the house, things like that? And that was going to kind of lead into one of my questions is, like, how much do, like, those type of, let's say, countertop upgrades or bathroom upgrades, do those really make a big difference to the value of the house? Like, where, let's say, if Zillow doesn't know about those upgrades, how off would it create their estimate, you know?
I mean, I don't know how their process, but I can tell you, for me, if I go to a house and the kitchens and bathrooms are remodeled, in my brain, I'm thinking like, oh, this likely should be on the higher end of values for that market.
Okay.
But like maybe another house has the original kitchens and bathrooms, but it has replaced the windows, the cooler, and the roof.
Right.
So you really have to look at what's been done and come to a conclusion if they're like for like, or is one actually better than the other.
Right.
Right. And if you think about homes that were built, let's say in 2020, right? Like all these homes are practically brand new. They're 5 years old.
Right.
Some people have chosen to do X material for their kitchen countertops and bathroom countertops. Some have chosen another material.
Right.
Does it exactly mean that one is worth more than the other?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? As a home buyer, you may look at those two homes and say, I want the one with that material, but are you going to pay $50,000 more because it has that material if they're both for sale?
Exactly. It's not necessarily that the materials makes it worth that much more, has that much more value.
Yeah.
It's something that you like better.
Yeah, if it's your preference, but I don't know if there's two sitting side by side, the same exact homes.
Right.
Everything's the same. One has whatever material, because I don't even want to say material and offend someone with that material, right? And one has another material, and one is more affordable. You're likely going to choose the more affordable one, right? But unless you really like that material and you really want to pay the difference. But I guess what I'm trying to say is both of those assets are new. Therefore, there wouldn't be a large reaction to the differences in material. But let's say one has a raw dirt backyard and one has a fully developed pool and hardscape and turf and maybe putting greens. Like you might see a larger response in that because the yard is finished, right? And you can move in, your kids can enjoy. One, you move in and you have to like make this next investment. Yeah. You know? Which
that was actually one of my questions too, is like, how about pools? Like, how much value do pools add? And is that even true that they add value? Because sometimes, you know, people may think, oh, I don't want a pool because I don't want to deal with the headache or the maintenance. So does it actually add value as well?
I would say it depends on the buyer. It's all in the eyes of the buyer. And I guess if you have young kids and you're a CIF swimmer, you might want a pool more than someone who has no experience and no kids.
Right.
If you're maybe elderly, you may not want a pool because you know it's a cost and it's a concern.
Right.
So, you know, it does add value in a report to me, but I would say as I change and get older and as my life changes, the value is different.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Every appraiser who shows up is going to have their own independent life journey and experience. So while all appraisers operate in a similar fashion, they do have their own experience. And
what percentage would you say that varies from appraiser to appraiser? Because obviously you have guidelines you have to go by, right, to come up with an appraisal. But just the personal experience, like you said, how much do you think that percentage-wise that actually varies?
It's hard to say, but I would, like you said earlier, some people have an attitude that pools don't raise value, And really, there's a process you use on the MLS called paired sales analysis, where you get all the properties with pools and all the properties without pools, and you see what's the price difference.
Right.
That's how you actually do it.
Okay.
And in some markets, where maybe the demographics are older, you'll see less of a change from situation to situation.
Right.
But as far as like how, I don't know. In theory, I want to say appraisers are supposed to be within 10% of each other in evaluation difference.
Okay.
So that's
Which is still a pretty big difference.
Yeah, it's acceptable.
Yeah.
But mind you, if one appraisal is done in January of 2025 and one is done in September of 2025, there's already likely going to be a difference because those are two different market times,
Right.
two different market conditions.
Gotcha. Okay.
Is that a clear answer?
Yeah. Absolutely. What would you say is like something that you see most common that people think is adding value to their house, but really doesn't?
I know, I'm telling all the secrets, huh? I was gonna say solar, but solar does add value because you save money over time. Just tell me some upgrades so I can respond. Turf, maybe? Turf saves you money on water, so you should. It is valuable because it saves you money over time.
Right.
I would say, in my opinion, some of these cosmetic upgrades or some of these materials. To me, if the on the report it asks you, was the kitchen remodeled, and then it asks you how many years ago.
Yeah.
It doesn't ask you,
are these tiles from Italy or something like
no.
that? Yeah.
You get it? So it's my mind frame is more about, has this been remodeled? How long ago was it remodeled?
Is it modern?
Yeah.
Is it recently done?
It doesn't say
But you don't get into the specific
did they use
details.
butcher block? It's not like.
Yeah.
So once I go through that process, my brain is saying, okay, well, this kitchen's remodeled, this bathroom's remodeled, period.
Right.
It's upgraded. It's nice.
Yeah. Which actually, the other day we were at a property in Dana Point, and the realtor was telling me, I think this one's going to sit a little longer because it might be a little overpriced for what they're asking for it. It's a brand new build.
New construction?
It's a new construction, yeah. So, but I think the issue is like they were really, really high end materials. So they're trying to get kind of like
top
paid for it. You know what I mean? So, and maybe in that market it does matter a little bit more. But it's just it looks like a new kitchen.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily know like where all these tiles and everything came from. So that could make it. In that house it might be like a $500,000 difference. Which you don't know necessarily if people are going to want to pay that extra $500,000
right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, every market has what I consider high and a low. Like every market has a range of values, and there's a high and a low. And a lot of times, your investor or your developer wants to push it. Like they're thinking, like, oh, that one sold for $2 million. I'm gonna sell mine for $3 million.
Yeah.
And I get it, but when the appraiser shows up, that's hard to prove.
Right.
Like we have to back that up with facts. And if there's no facts, what are we? And what the investor or developer would tell you, like, oh, well, here's our cost of all the stuff we did.
Right.
And you're like, oh, this is nice. Thank you. And you can disclose it, but still, if there's no comps to prove what it's worth, somewhere down the line of the review of my report is going to get kicked back to me.
Right.
And it's going to be an issue. Even nowadays, because the listing supply is increasing, someone will say to you, like, oh, you appraised this property for $1 million, but there's 5 other homes for $900,000 down the street. How is it worth $1 million?
Yeah.
Right. And you got to answer that. And so you really, I would say as the listing supply increases, you really have to be more conservative about your valuations nowadays.
All right. So next question I wanted to get into is how difficult is it being an appraiser in California since the prices just are constantly going up, especially the last 2-3 years is just, it's gone up 20-30%. How difficult does that make your job?
Yeah. There's something called a ROV, which is a reconsideration of value. And it's kind of like, the values go up, but like I said earlier, you have to be factual on my value. I have to comply with what's called USPAP, the Uniform Standards of Professional Appraisal Practice. What I create are appraisals. It's an unbiased opinion, right?
Okay.
And it's fact-based. So I don't go out there knowing that someone thinks their home is worth $5 trillion. I go out there documenting what it is, and then I go to the computer, I find comparables that reflect what it is.
Right.
I make adjustments, I do a reconciliation, and that's the value. a lot of times, and that's what I do. I've done it many times with no complaints. Every once in a while, you get a complaint or you get a reconsideration of value, and they'll provide you with comparables that you did not use because that's like the rules. And those comparables will be on the other side of the freeway or in another school district or across, some district line. And, technically what you have to do is reply to the client or reply to the client and tell them why you didn't use those comparables or why you should use them and then incorporate them. So it does happen. People are, I should say, in the real estate industry, a lot of people are usually pushing values, or like we said earlier, the investor wants 3 million when everything else has 2 million because he put in all these fine materials. And if I can't prove it, I can't prove it. That same investor may have a comp from 15 miles away that reflects their build quality, and they'll try to give that to you. And technically, you just say, I didn't use it because it's 15 miles away. It's a different market. Or they'll try to find a comparable from however many years ago that's not comparable. Because in theory, if you're in a condominium neighborhood, let's say you're in a gated neighborhood, and the most recent sale was 3 years ago. I mean, if that's the most recent sale, that's the most recent sale. You should use it. And if that is what reflects the value of the contract, or what the perception of the value is, then maybe it should be used. Because in some locations, kind of like I said at tri-counties, that unique form of ownership in that location is important. And you really shouldn't use like an association or a gated neighborhood with a non-gated neighborhood. Because it's not apples for apples. The location itself is not apples for apples, let alone the building and the upgrades.
How much of a challenge is it with your business that, like, essentially your clients want to push you to give them a certain type of value, right?
That's crazy.
So it's kind of like, in one hand, it's like you don't want to disappoint them, but sometimes on the other hand, you have to be true to your
license,
your profession, and your line of work, right?
It's crazy.
So I feel like that must be difficult at times, and I don't know.
If you want me to be frank with you, as a real estate appraiser, you don't really have a lot of perception of a lot of the other dealings that go on in the industry. But since I've gotten the AMC license, I'm a little more privy to that, and I understand more of the mortgage finance side a little better. And, there's all these rules that make the appraiser unbiased and do these quality things. But then there's like however many 100,000 industry professionals who want the opposite. So it's kind of odd. And kind of like I said earlier, I have to be fact-based. And I realized, like, I'm not here to make friends. Even though I love everybody and I would happy to be your friend, but if you're going to defriend me or try to badmouth me because of some valuation conclusion, then I don't think we're friends in the first place.
Yeah. I mean, we deal in a similar line of business where we're supposed to be here at Escrow, we're supposed to be completely unbiased. But there is one side that's giving us the business and one that's not. So sometimes people want to use that as like, hey, like leverage in our favor, but we can't. It's the integrity that we have in our work that we can't do it.
I would never expect, because of my line of work, I just want people to do their job, nothing more. I don't want no one to get in trouble or lose their license or anything.
Exactly.
If someone has to lose out, they lose out. But we have a job to do, and we have to keep honesty and integrity. Period. And there is people who are trying to, like, I've had a lady like complain even though I did quality work. It's weird. And even what's even weirder is, like, someone will try to find a way. Like, you did something wrong in here. And we're going to talk to you about that. You know what I mean? and it's like, and I'll have the conversation politely. Like, I'm not even mad. Like, if I did something wrong, like, let me know so I can fix it. But a lot of times, like, the result of it is not much. And it's not because I'm special, but it's because my reports I create, I put a lot of details in them. Like, when I'm making the report, I'm thinking, I want to put this thing to sleep. Because if I can't finish that and move on, the next 20 or 30 or whatever, I can't even work on them. Because I'm going to still be working on this. So for anyone watching, any appraiser or trainee, really put the details in there so that it's in the report. And if someone does call you up, you can refer right to that report and show them where the details are. Because a lot of times when they call you or they ask for things, it's already in the report anyways. And it's like, I know they didn't even read the report. They just looked at the value and said, "Oh, no,
they're not.
That's not the value." No. And then they start trying to figure out why it's not. rather than reading the details and reading the situation.
Exactly.
Like we talked about pools earlier. I did one that had a very generic pool, like very generic and
Cookie cutter
pool, which is fine. I don't. Every pool is nice.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to sit here and downgrade
not
pools.
judging pools.
But this particular situation, they kind of said to me that my pool adjustment was conservative, and I'm trying to look at it from like I'm trying to consider like, okay, so there's an issue here with the pool. So I go to the report and I see them like, yeah, well the pool was like it was a generic pool. It was like it wasn't saltwater. It was a rectangle. It was probably 3 feet the whole thing across. Like it wasn't very special.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at what they're saying, and it makes it hard. Like now I'm puzzled because I start thinking in my head, like, well, did someone with an appraiser license look at this? Like let me say it this way. Again, it's USPAP. Like I have to comply with USPAP. And I question, okay, I have to comply with USPAP, and I'm getting a message from some random third party who I don't know who it is.
Right.
And I have to like address it, but they're giving me things that are non-USPAP qualified or not even considered.
Right.
And now I have to try to incorporate that into like, is this in USPAP or not? And it does get odd because anyone anywhere can like throw something at you and you have to respond to it, and they have no standard or no quality or no anything
or qualifications.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And oddly, even though like I finished that 3 weeks ago and I'm trying to do this other thing over here, I have to like kind of put that on hold, come back over here, address it, and then get back to the work.
Right.
Right. And when you realize that thing is already in the report anyways, you're kind of like, really? You know?
Yeah, it makes sense.
So it could be frustrating. But even at that, I'm happy to put the work and provide the details. I think that there should be another venue, or there should be like appraisal advocates. That's why I got the AMC license, because as I realize that people don't actually look at the reports, I realize that the clients need someone to interpret these things to them. Like when I'm talking to like an executor or like a non-real estate professional, like they're looking at like things like cost per square foot. They're looking at the very basic calculations and trying to use that to come into evaluation. And they'll say like, oh, well, comp number one sold for $500 per square foot. You know, why is my value this? And it's like, well, it did sell for that much, but if you look on the bottom, like there's more calculations there to be reviewed.
Right.
So people just kind of narrow in on certain details and, you know, try to stick to it.
Or they overlook the details, which is really important on an appraisal, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of information in there. And in some appraisals, the one I was thinking about in my brain, you're doing the sales comparison approach, you're doing an income approach, and a cost approach.
Right.
And the appraiser has to reconcile those three approaches to decide which one is most relevant. So while you may be looking at that one approach to value, the appraiser has done all three and included a comment on why, and you're looking at this one thing over here. And you haven't like actually looked at the full report. So that is sometimes frustrating, but you know, it is what it is. And I realize I have appraisal experience. The state gave me these licenses, so I need to be in my role and just answer questions.
Exactly.
Oddly, a lot of times, like Monday through Friday from 9 to 5, I'm like talking on the phone more than I'm doing reports because I get a lot of inquiries and questions.
Right.
Which is good, and it makes me feel like, you know, I'm in the right place, so to speak.
Exactly.
Right.
What's something that you would just like hope that, I guess, people would keep in mind going into an appraisal, like something that homeowners should know
before the appraiser shows up?
Right.
Make sure your safety items are addressed. You know, make sure you have smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors, because if you don't have those things, it's going to cost you regardless of what happens. You know, you might want to put your dog.
Like what are some of the basics? So like carbon monoxide.
Yeah, install carbon monoxide, one per floor. Install smoke detectors in all the living areas, all the rooms. Make sure your safety straps are in your hot water heater. Those are the main three. If there's any safety hazards, you know, make sure that they're addressed, or make sure that you at least have some sort of remediation that you can share with the appraiser. Right. If you have a huge roof stain and you've replaced the roof, maybe you should have your receipt, you know, ready to show like, hey, there is a stain there, but we replaced the roof last year. Yeah, you know, because those are things that I see where I'm like, okay, and I'm going to ask the homeowner like, oh, did you replace the roof, or is this an active problem, you know?
Right.
Sometimes you'll turn on a switch and the lights will flicker, you know, there's just, so it leads me to ask them like, oh, well, you know, what's going on here, you know?
Right.
But alternatively, like in a divorce, like everything's messed up, you know, like all of a sudden it's a brand new house, but everything's falling apart and it's worth $3, you know?
Right.
So you really, as USPAP works, you have to also be able to like see through some of the mess of like the misleading of an appraiser, and that's actually supposed to be illegal, but people do it anyways. But there's a rule that says you're not supposed to mislead appraisers.
Right.
But kind of like I've shared with you through some of these ROVs and through some of these comps and through some of these court cases, people will try to mislead you anyway.
Right.
So I don't know if I answered your question, but
no, absolutely, yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot of things that maybe just people can help themselves, right? So that you don't have to come back or
like on a refinance, those things matter. If it's for a court matter, those things don't really matter.
Right.
But just be honest. It might be better to like have both parties there. Just have the house be empty so the appraiser can go in there and do it without the influence.
Right.
But what's interesting is you, as the homeowner, you know the property very well, and I can ask you a question like, "Oh, when did you replace this? Or when did you do that?" And you can tell me, and that makes for a good situation.
Right.
And like the one I'm thinking about was for a divorce, and like we start around the outside, then there's peeling paint, and the outside's kind of messed up, but we get inside, and this place is nice.
Right.
I'm like, dude, he's been telling me all this stuff, and now we're inside, and it's like, okay, well, clearly you fixed this place up to a really high level, and it is what it is. I did the report and finished it and moved on, but it's just some of those things kind of mess you up because people are selling in a way. They're like selling you something,
right?
And at the end of the day, you're like, well, yeah, the outside had peeling paint, there's some messed up stucco, but your kitchen's bathroom is really nice. He was even telling me that his heater doesn't work, and like obviously I'm not an HVAC specialist, so I have to kind of take his word for it. But people will just say things, and if in theory you could say like, oh, I suggest for a HVAC specialist to come out here and inspect the property, and then that will influence your value one way or the other,
Right.
But yeah, it's a fun job. Anyone who's watching, I might sound like some sort of complainer. I'm not a complainer. I love real estate. I love people, and I love the opportunity to appraise properties. But sometimes I am taken aback by the things that are being presented to me during the appraisal inspections. So just be honest. Overall, if you're just honest and real, you're going to get an honest and real appraiser. I think is the best way to say it.
And in reality, I feel like that's what you want, right? You want to know the real value.
Yeah.
You don't want to know the value of what you think it is or what you hope it is. You want to know what the real value is.
What it's actually worth.
Yeah.
If you're in the settlement,
it's gonna set you up better that you're not overpricing your home. If you're gonna sell it, then you're gonna be disappointed later on anyways.
Yes.
You know what I mean? If you're not gonna get it or it's gonna sit on the market for 3 months.
Yeah.
So it's better just to really be honest with the appraiser and get a true value of what it's worth.
Like if you know there's foundation damage, you should tell that there's foundation damage.
Right.
Right. You live there. You know the house. The appraiser's there for 25 minutes, 30 minutes. He may not be able to document and see all these things.
Right.
So in some cases, people are, that's to their benefit. In some cases, it's going to get found out anyways because there's going to be a home inspector.
Right.
Right. But there's something called a scope of work. So in the scope of work of an appraisal inspection, you're just doing like a visual inspection. And an appraiser is not a foundation specialist. We don't know framing. We're not. Like if you've altered your kitchen and opened up walls, it looks nice, but we don't know that like you took out the supporting member and now your roof is going to be sagging in 3 years. We don't have a perception for that. So I guess I'm saying that because the scope of the appraisal inspection is kind of limited. It's visual only.
Right.
And it could lead for there to be loopholes.
It's a very big difference from having a home inspection, right? I know you mentioned that last time. A lot of people may kind of confuse the two, but it's actually very different.
Yeah, home inspection is very detailed. He's going to look at your framing. He's going to look at your electrical. He's going to test mechanical items, go up on the roof. So as a home buyer, you definitely want to get a home inspection and you want an appraisal inspection. And you may want to, depending on how you're negotiating your deal, take your home inspection and give it to your appraiser.
Right.
And I would even say you might want to get a private appraisal as a home buyer so that you have additional peace of mind that's outside of the influence of everyone else.
That makes sense. Well, Lionel, you gave us a lot of good information today. I think a lot of things that people maybe can keep for the next time they're going to buy or sell a home.
Yeah.
So I appreciate your time. I appreciate you coming down and all the information. Hopefully we could do it again soon. Hopefully I see you at some more events.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to be at this event on Wednesday. I'm going to put on my calendar to be there Wednesday.
You got it, man.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.